Hi everybody, in today's project we are going to use this. My lovely twins got their paws of destruction on this roll, so it wasn't used for anything else. So I decided to go outside and use this stuff. Now unless you want to coat your lungs with plastic, do this inside. Please be careful, it is your body. Welcome to the workshop. So after melting several of the plastic sheets, I twisted these together and I attached them with a little bit of hot glue. Now, as I mentioned before, the shapes came naturally to me as I saw what the results were when I was melting the plastic. It was also the shape that inspired to go for a watchtower. And since the texture of the melted plastic reminded me of some kind of coral, it became a watchtower for the Idoneth deepkin. Now, since a watchtower needs a platform of some kind, I went with a 5mm thick foam board and I cut 3 circles, one large one and 2 smaller. Now don't be too exact with the cutting, we are going to cover the sides and the platform itself with a texture. I then got a hole in the center circle to make some room for the plastic structure that is going to poke through, and then I attached the other circles with a little bit of PVA glue. Now you can see that one of the platforms has the cardboard removed. That's because I wanted to show some Idoneth iconography. For this I drew on a pattern with a pen, and I went over the lines with a hobby knife, and then again with the tip of a pen I widened the lines. A bit of more detailing with a compass. Just draw on the pattern and then use the tip of the pen to widen the lines. I used hot glue to attach the platform to the plastic structure. For some extra detailing on the platforms, I used metal floral wire. I cut these into segments of about 6 centimeters. Gave them a little bit of a bend. Pushed them through the foam core and attached a little bit of super glue so these wouldn't move when I applied the next step. So the next step is the texture on the metal poles in the platforms. I used air drying clay for this process. After a little bit of a knead, I applied some to the metal poles, and then I sculpted on a bit of texture with the sculpting tool. Just a bit of vertical lines, nothing too fancy. And then I did the same for the poles at the bottom of the platform. And this is the result. Now of course this structure isn't nearly stable enough for gameplay, so I used the same air drying clay to make a base. I just pushed it against the structure and made a couple of thick tentacles or roots like structure. Before texturing this structure, I applied a bit of texture to the platform. This is a mixture of about 90% sawdust and 10% of wallpaper glue. I mix this with water until I reach a paste-like consistency, and I use a sculpting tool to attach the paste to the model. This is going to, when dried, look a bit like rock, bark type structure. So I apply the paste to the sides, the top and the bottom, and also a little bit over the patterns that I carved into the foam. And I melted some more sheets of plastic, going to attach these with hot glue to the root-like structure at the bottom of the tower. Sometimes the hot glue tends to come loose, so you can then use a little bit of super glue to reattach the plastic, and this works also, or you can use a combination of both. And now that the building of the tower is done, it's time to start with the paint job. For this I started with a black and a grey primer spray, which I applied in a striped pattern. And then I went in with ivory to break up the grey colors, to apply a little bit of a highlight. The ivory was only applied to the grey primer. And then I applied a coat of black paint to the black primer to get rid of some of the overspray from the ivory and to deepen the shadows. The platform was painted with stone grey. To give some more variety in the color palette, I applied a bunch of inks, mainly sepia and brown. This is going to break up the white and black pattern. I applied the inks all over the model with the brown ink to where the most shadows would be. This is the result. Now I let it dry thoroughly and then I go back in with a bunch of normal washes. For these I used thin down sepia and thin down black. The sepia went over the grey, well, to where the grey meets the black, to give a bit of a transient. And then the black just over the remaining grey to enhance the depth when we are going to dry brush. Final bit of wash in the Idoneth iconography, just to bring it out a little bit more. And then it's time for the dry brushes. I'm going to reuse the colors that I use for the base coats. So I give the model a dry brush, or at least the grey areas of the model a dry brush with stone grey. And then a last highlight layer of ivory. Again over the entire model and also over the black parts. And that's it for the painting of this tower. Now we're going to add a bit more dashes of bright color all over the model, and for this we're going to use some twine that I'm going to model with my fingers into some shapes, cut it to size, and then I add a little bit of PVA glue, rub it in with my fingers, let this dry a little bit so it's much easier to paint to manipulate. I cut the little tufts to size with scissors. Then I applied a bright pink color as a base coat, and then to the sides of the strands I used some purple. Find the appropriate places to add the shrubs. I attached these with super glue. And that is it for this project. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I hope you're inspired by what you've seen. Please like, please subscribe. You know what to do. Subscribing keeps me motivated to make stuff, so please do not skip out. See you soon for our next project. Bye.